Senior intelligence analyst Rex stood before the High Council of the Dominion, his forearms trembling slightly as he activated the holographic display. The 12 council members watched with cold, calculating eyes. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, and nothing had ever truly surprised them. Until now. The display flickered to life, showing a small blue planet orbiting an ordinary yellow star. Earth, a world that had only achieved faster than light travel barely 50 years ago. A world that the Dominion had dismissed as irrelevant. A world that was now causing every intelligence agency in the known galaxy to question everything they understood about conquest and control. Rex cleared his throat and began speaking in a voice that carried the weight of genuine confusion. He explained that what they were about to see had been verified by 17 separate sources. Every piece of information had been checked and rechecked. The analysis team had spent 6 months trying to find errors in their data. They had found none. The first image showed the Karathi, a reptilian species that occupied 3 star systems near human space. The Karathi were warriors. They had fought the Dominion for 200 years before being crushed into submission. They had never surrendered willingly to anyone in their entire history. Their culture valued strength above all else, and they viewed those who conquered them as enemies to be destroyed at the first opportunity. 3 years ago, humanity had gone to war with the Karathi over a disputed mining colony. The conflict lasted 8 months. Human military forces, despite being technologically inferior, had used tactics that the Karathi had never encountered. The humans had not simply attacked. They had studied. They had learned. They had adapted. And when they finally struck, they struck with precision that left the Karathi military leadership in chaos. The Karathi homeworld fell. Their fleet was destroyed. Their government surrendered unconditionally. By every standard measure in the galaxy, they were a conquered people, and conquered peoples followed predictable patterns. They resisted. They plotted. They waited for weakness. They struck back when opportunity arose. This was the natural order of things. Rex changed the display to show current intelligence footage from the Karathi homeworld. Council members leaned forward in their seats, expecting to see resistance movements, secret weapon programs, hidden communications with potential allies. Instead, they saw Karathi children learning human languages in schools. They saw Karathi workers building infrastructure alongside human engineers. They saw Karathi soldiers wearing joint insignias, serving in combined military units with human troops. One council member demanded an explanation. This had to be some form of mind-control technology. The humans must have developed neural modification techniques. There was no other rational explanation for what they were seeing. Rex shook his head slowly. His team had considered that possibility first. They had captured and examined Karathi individuals from human-controlled space. Brain scans showed no modification. Chemical analysis revealed no drugs or biological agents. The Karathi were acting of their own free will. The analyst pulled up communication intercepts from Karathi civilians. A mother was speaking to her daughter, explaining that the humans had brought medicine that cured the plague which had killed her grandmother. A father was telling his son about the human concept of fair trial, how criminals were given the chance to speak in their own defense before punishment. A military commander was recording a personal log, expressing something that took the translation software several attempts to process correctly. The word was gratitude. Rex explained that when humanity conquered the Karathi, they did not install a puppet government designed to extract resources. They did not demand tribute. They did not take hostages from powerful families to ensure compliance. Instead, they did something that had never been documented in galactic history. They asked what the Karathi needed. The Karathi had been suffering from a genetic disease that had plagued their species for generations. Human medical researchers arrived within months of the war's end. They worked alongside Karathi scientists. They shared their knowledge freely. Within 2 years, They had developed a treatment that reduced mortality from the disease by 90%. A council member interrupted, stating that this was obviously a calculated strategy to pacify the population. The humans were being clever, nothing more. They were simply using different methods to achieve the same goal of control. Rex agreed that this was what his team had initially concluded. They had expected to find that human kindness was a surface layer, hiding the same oppressive structures that every conquering empire employed. They had searched for the exploitation. They had looked for the hidden taxation, the forced labor, the resource extraction agreements that benefited only the conquerors. They had found nothing of the sort. The display changed to show economic data. Trade between human and Karathi worlds had increased by 400% since the war ended. Both economies were growing. Karathi merchants were operating freely in human space. Karathi students were attending human universities. And most disturbingly of all, Arathi volunteers were joining human military forces faster than the recruitment offices could process them. Rex pulled up testimony from a captured Karathi military officer. The officer had been serving on a human vessel when his ship was damaged in a skirmish with pirates. He had been recovered by Dominion forces and interrogated extensively. His words played through the council chamber speakers. The officer spoke of his first day aboard the human ship. He had expected to be treated as a second-class crew member, assigned to menial tasks and given the worst duties. Instead, the human captain had welcomed him personally. She had learned 3 phrases in his native language. She had mispronounced all of them badly, and then laughed at herself. She had asked him to correct her pronunciation and thanked him when he did. He spoke of being assigned to an engineering team where his suggestions were actually heard. When he proposed a modification to the shield systems based on Karathi technology, the chief engineer did not dismiss him. Instead, she brought the idea to the captain, giving him full credit. The modification was implemented. It worked. The captain promoted him and held a ceremony to recognize his contribution in front of the entire crew. The officer's voice grew quiet as he described the moment he realized something had changed inside him. Pirates had boarded the ship. He had fought alongside the human crew. Not because he was ordered to. Not because he feared punishment. He had fought because these humans were his people now. He would die for them just as easily as he would die for his own family. The council chamber fell silent. Rex let the weight of those words settle before continuing. His team had documented similar stories across every species that humanity had defeated in conflict. The Menthari, insectoid beings who had attacked the human colony and been pushed back to their own space, now referred to humans as elder siblings. The Voss, an aquatic species that had lost a brief territorial dispute, had requested formal integration into human political structures. They had not been forced. They had asked. Rex displayed a comparative analysis that had taken his team 3 months to compile. The Dominion had conquered over 400 species throughout its history. The average time before a major rebellion occurred was 47 years. 70% of conquered species attempted violent resistance within the first decade. Resources devoted to occupation and control typically consumed 35% of all value extracted from conquered territories. Humanity had been a spacefaring power for only 50 years. They had engaged in conflict with 5 species. All 5 now considered themselves allies of humanity. Combined human and allied military forces were growing at a rate that would make them a significant galactic power within 2 decades. And humanity had achieved this not through the strength of their weapons, but through something far more dangerous. A council member asked what that something was. Her voice carried an edge of fear that she could not quite hide. Rex took a long moment before answering. He said that his team had struggled to identify the correct term. The humans had many words for it: respect, honor, dignity, compassion. But the translation that seemed most accurate was simply this. Humans treated those they defeated as future friends rather than permanent enemies. He explained the human concept of reconstruction. After defeating an enemy, humans devoted significant resources to rebuilding what they had destroyed. They educated populations. They integrated former enemies into their own society with genuine pathways to equality. They did not simply tolerate the continued existence of conquered peoples. They actively invested in their prosperity. The oldest council member spoke for the first time. His voice was like dry leaves crackling in wind. He asked if Rex was suggesting that humans were somehow morally superior to the Dominion. The question carried implicit threat. Rex answered carefully. He was not making moral judgments. He was presenting strategic analysis, and the strategic reality was clear. The Dominion maintained control through fear and force. When Dominion military power was reduced, conquered peoples rose up. This required constant military expenditure and continuous vigilance. It was expensive and exhausting. Humanity maintained control through something else entirely. Their former enemies did not wait for weakness to strike. Their former enemies actively protected them. Human territory was defended not just by human ships, but by the combined fleets of every species they had ever defeated. This was not just cheaper. It was exponentially more effective. Rex changed the display one final time. It showed a projection of galactic power distribution over the next century. If current trends continued, the human alliance would become the dominant force in the galaxy within 80 years. Not through conquest alone, but through something the Dominion had never considered possible. Growth through genuine cooperation. The council members stared at the projection in silence. 10,000 years of Dominion, and they had never imagined that kindness could be a weapon. They had never considered that treating defeated enemies with dignity might create allies rather than subjects. The concept was so foreign to their understanding of power that they struggled to process it. The youngest council member finally spoke. She asked what the Dominion should do in response to this threat. Rex had no answer. His team had analyzed every possible response. Military confrontation would only accelerate human alliance building. Economic pressure would be ineffective against a coalition that was already largely self-sufficient. Covert destabilization had failed in every simulation because the species allied with humanity genuinely believed in the alliance. There was no hidden resentment to exploit, no secret desire for freedom from human control, because the humans had never truly controlled anyone. The senior analyst stood in silence as the council processed his report. He understood that everything they had built over 10,000 years was threatened not by weapons or technology, but by an idea. The idea that conquered peoples might become family. The idea that former enemies might become the strongest defenders. The idea that power could be multiplied through love rather than just fear. As he left the council chamber, Rex found himself thinking about the Karathi officer's testimony. The human captain who learned to speak words in a language not her own. The ceremony held to honor a former enemy. The moment when a conquered soldier realized he would die for his conquerors. He wondered if the Dominion could ever learn to do the same. He wondered if it was already too late. And somewhere in the depths of his analytical mind, he wondered if perhaps the humans had discovered something that the galaxy had forgotten long ago. That true strength was not measured in ships or weapons or conquered territories. True strength was measured in hearts that chose to follow. The report would be classified at the highest level. The council would deliberate for months. But Rex already knew that nothing they decided would change the fundamental truth he had uncovered. Humanity was building something unprecedented in galactic history. And they were building it one act of kindness at a time,